I will call to order our regular council meeting for January 28th, 2025. If you could please stand and join me in a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Buhai, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mrs. Sharpshare? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Lovett?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mrs. Knight? Here. And Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Thank you. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of our last meeting? Seeing none, those minutes will stand as approved, as written and distributed. Reports and communications, Mayor Hardman.
Thank you. If any of you are available between 8 and 9:30 tomorrow and want to come hear me talk about Sharonville, I'm going to be doing that over at the Northern Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce. Has invited folks in just to talk about the state of the city and just a chance to get together and chat. So if you're available and want to stop by, we're obviously welcome to do so. We've received some communications lately about some issues going on with regard to individuals doing some things along the bus routes specifically, but there's other areas throughout the town where we've had some issues with folks loitering and leaving things behind. So we're actively looking at ways to address that as we can within legal parameters to make sure that that's not what we expect from our community. And obviously things can't just be left in our right of way as a city. So we are dealing with those situations as they arise and trying to take care of it on a ongoing basis. I know there's been a lot of finger pointing from some folks about just having bus routes causing this problem. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'll flat out put it that way. I think that on a whole, the metro bus routes that we have that have come to Sharonville, obviously they weren't necessarily, we didn't say come here, we didn't create them, but as a whole, they are certainly a benefit to our community and certain aspects of our community. And we're trying to deal with how can we do better? I mean, how can we make sure that we're not leaving trash behind at bus stops, that things aren't being left behind just in and of itself, or bad elements aren't coming into the community because of that. So, and again, we obviously benefited from the fact that our shared use path benefited from funds that come through SORTA and the levy that passed as a result of that. So again, it's out there. Those are things that maybe you've heard comments from. I just wanted to let folks know that we are aware of issues and we are addressing issues as we can within our legal capabilities to do so. Glad to see this great group of Boy Scouts here who have showed up tonight. This is 803. 803. Looks like they're probably earning a badge or something tonight. So we'll try to, we had another group here 2 weeks ago, and they said they needed something controversial to talk about for their report, and we couldn't help them there. I don't think we're going to be much better tonight, but I will say the one comment I did bring to them last week is we passed the resolution to support the Ohio Municipal League with regard to the AT&T tariff. In case you didn't see, due to, I would say, probably a lot of the opposition from municipalities, AT&T withdrew their request and went back to the drawing board, and hopefully we'll be having a dialogue with communities to figure out how to do this appropriately and within what communities can help support as good partners. So that was good news to hear from the Ohio Municipal League that will not be necessary to go any further at this point in time. We hosted a fantastic Visit Cincy annual luncheon a couple of weeks ago, I think it was now. Really showed off who we are as a convention center. I think anybody that's associated, all of this group, which you're going to hear from later, should be super proud of themselves for what we were able to do and show off to the convention and tourism community here in our region. We really are a huge player in this arena, and I know that our partners down at Visit Cincy are realizing that. I think as a result, this probably won't be, obviously we were here for the first time ever for that purpose because of the renovations going on down at the Duke Energy Center, but I've got it on good authority that this probably won't be the last time, even after Duke Energy Center is, their renovation is complete, that because we showed who we are and how important we are and what a great job we can do and our partners do, they're likely to be back. So again, maybe even on and off years, who knows, but we'll see how that all comes about. But great job, Jim, to your team, OVG. Chef, that was one of the best lunches I've ever had in a that huge a setting. That chicken was amazing. So, so did a great job. Congratulations to all of you. We really looked good as a result. And I think you see pictures in here of how it looks stunning. The ballroom looked as a result as well. That's what I have by way of report this evening. Unless anyone has any questions for me.
All right, seeing none, thank you. Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. Just a couple of things before the legislation. Our police department is working with an organization called Blue Star Families. It's for veteran and crisis support boxes. Right now there's a box at the police station where people can donate items that they need. So when the police department encounters a veteran who's in need, they could provide some services. The items that the currently looking out for is sweatshirts and pants, socks, t-shirts, lotion, comb or a brush, travel size toiletries, snacks, and handwritten messages of support. The box is going to be there until the end of the month, but Chief Nesbitt is hoping to continue this effort for a longer period of time. And then second, for those, I know this group knows, but for those in the audience and the public in general, our police station across the hall is going to be converted to an income tax space, and starting next week some demolition will start occurring for that project. So this side door will be open now because we will be losing our ADA accessibility door over across the hall. So that's going to start next week. They're actually mobilizing this week, and you may even see some action yet this week. But legislation-wise, Ordinance 2024-77 is our annual piece of legislation to update our codified ordinances. Really something we do every year, not much to talk about unless there's any questions. Ordinance 2025-07E deals with some purchases at the fire department. Chief Sunderman is here to talk about those.
Good evening, all. I'd like to start by welcoming the Scouts. As I told the troop 2 weeks ago, I was in that seat about 35 years ago. Some of these people might find 35 years ago controversial. Don't believe them. It's true. It was about 35 years ago. This is our annual ordinance for our purchases that are above the threshold that require legislation. So the radio purchase, that's an ongoing project we've talked about several times. The power cot load system, those are all timing out at about the same time. They're all 10 years old. We were able to get 4 of them via grant about 10 years ago. So I'm trying to do those one at a time and match those up with the purchase of new ambulances so we don't have that big of a piece of capital all aging out at about the same time. The big ticket item there, that Horton ambulance, we are still looking at 36 to 40 months of build time, and the ambulance that we ordered in Q1 of 2022 still has not been built. So we've stayed in contact with the vendor. I continue to think that we are with the right vendor, we are getting a good product. It's just taking a very long time to get the builds done. And then the last one is a response vehicle to update our fleet of response vehicles, and those are vehicles that would be fully upfitted with emergency lighting and communication radios and such.
Any questions for Chief?
Thank you all.
Thanks, Chief.
And then the two resolutions that are on the agenda have the same purpose, just dealing with two different projects. The first is our Mosteller Road repaving project, and the second resolution deals with our Kemper Path resurfacing project. We're at the point where we need some easements from some business owners, and we think that the resolution of intent for both of these will initiate some action. There's been some even updates from the Law Committee discussion on this, that for Mosteller Road, we still need 2 property owners to sign off. And then the Kemper Road project, there's been some activities such that we only need 3, and we think 2 of those will be signing soon. So hopefully the resolution of intent will get their attention to get the paperwork going, because we really do need to proceed with those projects this year. Any questions on that?
What's the extent of the Kemper Road path from where to where?
The Kemper, it's pretty much resurfacing what's already there,
Okay.
but then adding some components for the Sorta bus stop, some crosswalks, and I can't remember exactly where the crosswalks would be at
Okay.
to get to the other side of the road where the bus stops are.
Public Works will have that.
What's that?
Public Works has that.
Yeah, and I could send out a visual for that as well.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions for Mr. Lucas? All right, seeing none. My report, had a great time at the Greater Cincinnati Remodeling Expo this past weekend. Great event. I was surprised you could fit all of those vendors into the one space, but you guys made the best use of the entire facility. So went in without a hitch, loved it, talked to several people there, and they thought it was great as well. And liked the fact that they didn't have to park to be here at the event. So kudos to the Convention Center staff for putting that together. That is it for my report. Clerk of Council, Ms. Buhite.
Thank you, no report.
Auditor, Mr. Cunningham.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to go over some year-end numbers real quick. Not all of this information I have in front of me, luckily for everybody. Lots of stuff here, but the general fund, we spent about 91% of the budget. And street construction, maintenance, and repair, 51.7%. Fire fund, we spent 94.4%. Senior housing, 94.2%, and convention center, 73.9%. So you can see that we're spending less than what we budgeted going into the beginning of the year. That sort of less spending in the general fund, you combine that with additional revenue that Mr. Irie is probably going to talk about here in a little bit, created a little bit of a surplus for us, which in turn created some transfers into mainly capital improvement fund for upcoming projects. In addition to that, separation benefits and facility improvement received some funds as well. So that's sort of a summary of how the year went. Obviously, very good news, very much needed capital improvement dollars so we can handle these projects that are upcoming. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Cunningham? All right, seeing none. Treasurer, Mr. Irie.
Good evening, thank you. As Mr. Cunningham indicated, we do have the final numbers in now from 2024, and we did have a record income tax receipts for the year. We were up 5.7% from 2023. And if we go a little deeper into some of the funds, we had an increase in revenue for the general fund of 15.5%. The street fund was up 17.5%. Fire fund was up 7%. Senior housing was up 0.04%, and the convention center fund was up 23.2%. So again, just a really great year for revenue for the city. And that is my report. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Irie? Seeing none, Law Director, Mr. Lippert.
Thank you. I don't have anything specific to report. I'm available for questions if anyone has anything.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, no, thank you. All right, Mr. Doughton, Convention Center Annual Report Update.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to give you the annual report for the Convention Center for 2024. I promise I won't go through every slide, but I did drop those off for you so you can read those at your leisure. So our big story this year is our expansion. So after 5 years of planning and 22 months of construction, in January 2024, we brought our long-awaited Convention Center expansion to a close as we officially opened the new 40,000 square foot Todd Portune Hall with a very well-attended ribbon cutting. I think some of you were there at that event. We were very pleased with how that turned out. I think we got coverage on every news channel as well as the Business Courier. So a great successful event. All of our partners at the county were there as well. Our partners with Visit Cincy as well. So the new Convention Center, and I know you've heard me say this probably 100 times, but I'm going to say it one more time. This will be the last time you hear me say it. But the new expansion is fitted and well equipped with 3 new entrances, a ticket box office, first aid paramedic room, a full bar and restaurant, a grab-and-go marketplace, a new state-of-the-art kitchen, large enough now to cater to 2,000-person banquets and over 5,000-person events. Our convention center now provides a total of 100,000 square feet of total event space, over 3 times the size of our original facility that opened 30 years ago, 1994. Some of our year-end highlights. The Convention Center hosted 185 total events with a total number of 256 event days out of 365, and our attendance was 219,527. So our average attendance per event increased to about 1,186 people versus an average of about 800 people before the expansion. So that was predicted. Our event total actually went down about 20, but the size of the events and the quality of the events and how many days these events are different. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. So our market segment analysis, our event types, this stayed pretty flat with the exception of 2 areas because we had a big change after COVID. The corporate meetings kind of shrunk and our public events just kind of blew up, and we did a lot more public events, and it really helped us offset some of the revenue losses from our corporate meetings. But at one point, corporate meetings were almost 70% of our total business. You can see meetings are at about 70 events. Everything stayed pretty relatively flat except our special event market, which usually the special events are things like weddings, dances, maybe graduations, reunions. They're smaller events. They're usually one-day events that usually don't drive a lot of revenue. They're great, filler business and shoulder business, but those were reduced to only 20 events as our sales team targeted much larger revenue-producing events. So that was a positive thing. Our number of public events continued to climb from 30 to 40 events in 2024 as we picked up several public events from the Duke Energy Center's closing, as well as just new first-time events that are just new in the market. Our convention center has relocated a total of 30 Duke Energy Convention Center events over that 18-month period that they're scheduled to be closed. So in talking with them, they are saying that they will be open, or they're planning to be open in January of 2026. We'll see if that happens. But for that 18-month period where they were closed, we've booked 30 events. And some of those events have told us verbally that they'll return, that they've enjoyed it, the parking, the free parking, easy access, the easy load-in, and the service. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to maintain some of those events after the Duke reopens. So I'm not going to go through this whole financial statement, but I will give you some of the highlights. 2024 saw the convention center grow our revenues. So the convention center's cash receipts were $2,812,091, which was up more than $700,000 from 2023. Prestige AV, our audiovisual partner, their revenues increased to $962,225. That was an increase of up to $250,000 from 2023. And our food and beverage partner, OVG, came in at $3,148,483. That was up over $870,389 from 2023. So those are gross revenues, but significant, as you can see, in our first year of being open. I think our forecast predicted that, it might take us a few more years to get there, but I think with just the climate and the return of business and the Duke closing, it all kind of played into us pacing a lot better than maybe we predicted. Our facilities gross revenues for 2024, this does not include TOT hotel tax. This is just operating gross income for the facility and our partners, totaled $6,922,799. So that's a new record. Our previous gross revenue record was all the way back in 2019, where we were $4,750,000. Additionally, because of these increases in revenue, we were able to contribute $84,362 at the end of the year to our restricted upkeep in our capital account. As you know, our agreement with the county requires us to contribute 3% of our gross revenues to the restricted upkeep account. And so last year, I think we were 60-something thousand, and so this year we added an additional $23,000 to our restricted upkeep capital fund. And then the Hamilton County, they contribute an additional $50,000 each year to our restricted upkeep fund. So this will be important as the building grows, the expenses to maintain it grow. And so we're very sensitive to that, and we'll be continuing to schedule capital over the next few years. Which brings us to capital projects. So this year, we really hadn't done a lot of capital in the last few years because of the expansion and the construction. So after the construction was done, the first thing we did was resurface and stripe the parking lot. There's a nice, pretty picture of that. I wish it would look like that always. And then we moved forward with the new paint and carpet and the grand ballroom before the end of the year. I think we used $25, but we were able to get it approved via council's approval to move forward with the carpet and the paint. And the ballroom looks fantastic. For those of you who haven't been there, you'll really notice a difference. We did the pre-function space as well as the ballroom, and it just looks fantastic. So we will be, before the end of the year, finishing the breakout space on the main level, and then next year our plan is to do the lower level of the original building of carpet and paint. OVG. As you know, in September of 2023, the city renewed our contract with our food and beverage partner, OVG. Our 12-year partnership has been a very positive and successful one. Tonight, Terry Zajo, our OVG GM, is here, and Chef Jamin Wilson, who I think you all know, is also here to support. They also brought some nice little refreshments for later. And Will Nelson, our event manager, is here with us to support us tonight. And I want to, if Terry and Chef can stand up, I just want to acknowledge, and you will too, please. No, I just want to acknowledge you all and for the success that we've had this year. And I feel like we're finally back to where we need to be. So thanks for all you do. So on this, you can see part of our contract for the renewal. We did a 5-year renewal, and we received about $1 million in capital. So we knew that there would be significant food and beverage needs as the building got bigger. We got this new big fancy kitchen, these new outlets like the bar and grill and the marketplace. So we needed more, more support for our food and beverage materials. So far this year, they've spent about $479,114 in additional capital equipment. And Terry outlined all the capital that has been spent so far. So we have about $500,000 left in that fund. We really needed to get caught up. You know, that additional $500,000 will be spread out over the next 3.5 years. But we needed significant investment, and they came to the table with that. And then additionally, there's about $94,000 in promotional and repair and maintenance. They fund all of the repair and maintenance for all of our equipment. That's part of our contract. So there's a percent of their revenues that goes into that fund that pays for that, which keeps us keeps our fund healthy. Terry, is there anything you want to say? You're good? Okay. You sure? Okay. And OVG is fully staffed, as we are. So that's exciting. Advertising, I didn't do a separate slide on this. I put a couple of our print ads. I know some of you have heard us on WVXU, or I've gotten phone calls that you saw us on Channel 12. So I just wanted to review a few of our advertising staples that is taken care of in our advertising budget. So we do trade with WKRC. They host a lot of business fairs and health fairs, and they'll run our commercials with that trade. We also do WVXU NPR Monday through Friday daily. We do the sponsor daily, I think at 8 at rush hour on the way to work and then on the way home. And then we're in Movers and Makers, which is this. And Movers and Makers, if you're not aware, it's a nonprofit publication for the nonprofit galas. And so we get a lot of traction by being in this magazine to show, hey, we host the premier galas in Cincinnati. And finally, we're in the Advocate, a print publication for the Ohio Society of Association Professionals. That's a big market that we're trying to attract, is the state association market. Jim and others have been real helpful in trying to communicate to their membership of their state association organizations to come to Sharonville. I think we've bid on 3 or 4 different events so far, and I think we've won a couple. And then our newsletter and promotions. So we do a monthly newsletter. Chef's video is our highest clicked link. If you want to learn how to make certain dishes, you can follow Chef on our newsletter. And he just did what? How many did you do today, commercials? You did 3? So 3 new videos today? Great. Okay. And then finally, our sales pace for 2025. Boy, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. We are just trending very well. So we've had a $310,000 month so far. I think we got another day or 2 to go. It's a record. We're up over 100,000 in the month of January. It's always good to start out, with a good head start instead of being behind in a hole. So as I look at the bookings that we've had, historically we've booked about 50% of our business a year out and 50% in the year for the year. And if that continues to be true, we should be well over our budgeted number and well over 2024's number for 2025 as we end. So all good news, all good news. Any questions?
Just a comment. So I mentioned during my annual report at the last council meeting that a lot of what I get into is privileged. And I will say that just from a behind-the-scenes perspective, Jim has worked incredibly hard to make the expansion to the convention center go smoothly. And he does it with a lot of grace and makes it look easy. And so a lot that I can't say, but kudos to you. You do make it look easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? No? Mr. Tankersley?
Congratulations on how everything's going. You and the staff, just keep up the good work, and it's good hearing that everything is going well.
Thank you.
All right. As always, great job. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, are there any residents desiring to be heard before council this evening? Shaking of the head by Mr. Schmidt. Nobody else? All right, you have one more opportunity. Council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley.
Thank you. The only thing I have to report is there is not going to be a BZA nor Planning Commission meeting for the month of February, that the next one will be scheduled in March. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Budget and Finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. No report for Budget and Finance, but our next meeting will be February 25th at 6 p.m. in the Administrative Conference Room. And then moving to Project Oversight, no report there also. However, our next meeting will be March 25th, 6 p.m. in the Administrative Conference Room. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Community Services, Mr. Lovett.
Thank you. No report this evening. Our next meeting will be at 4 p.m. Wednesday, February 5th in the Administrative Conference Room. I will say welcome to Troop 803. Glad you guys are here. It's been a long time since I've been in your seat. Not quite as long as Chief Sunderman's. but Scouts, Boy Scouts had an incredible impact on my life, so keep doing it, keep enjoying it, keep enjoying the journey. It's some wonderful things, so congrats, guys. That's me.
And Mr. Lovett is actually an Eagle Scout, so.
I had hair back then, so.
Thank you. Honored Citizens, Ms. Knight.
Yes, tonight I am honoring all our Sharonville small businesses. With all the terrible weather we had, they all had to survive the ice and the snow, keeping their driveways clear and making sure their employees and customers were safe. So I say, let's go out and support all of Sharonville's small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. The next Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be on the 4th, Tuesday, Administrative Conference Room, 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this time rule suspension motions, first and only reading for immediate effectivity of ordinance 2025-07E, resolutions 2025-R-01-E, and 2025-R-02-E. Is there a motion for late delivery, or I'm sorry, is there a motion for rule suspension for those ordinances? Mr. Lovett, thank you for the first. Mr. Tankersley, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes. Yes. Those opposed, no. All right. Rule suspension carries. Unfinished business, Ms. Buhite.
Okay. Will be the third reading of ordinance 2024-77, an ordinance approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinances of Sharonville, Ohio.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-77? Ms. Sharpshire, thank you for the first. Mr. Cook, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-77 has been approved.
Thank you. new business, Ms. Buhite?
All right. First and only reading of Emergency Ordinance 2025-07E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into contracts to purchase fire department equipment and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2025-07-E? So moved by Ms. Knight, second by Mr. Cox. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Emergency Ordinance 2025-07E has been approved. First and only reading of Resolution 2025-R-01E, declaring the necessity and intent to appropriate permanent easements and temporary construction easements for a public purpose from several property owners for the Mosteller Road improvements and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for resolution 2025-R-01-E? Mr. Tankersley, thank you for the first. Ms. Sharpshire, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Resolution 2025-R-01E has been approved. First and only reading of Resolution 2025-R-02E, declaring the necessity and intent to appropriate permanent easements and temporary construction easements for a public purpose from several property owners for the Kemper Road improvements and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for resolution 2025-R-02-E? Mr. Lovett, thank you for the first. Ms. Knight, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Resolution 2025-R-02E has been approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, at this time, for the final time this evening, are there any residents desiring to be heard before council this evening? Still none. Okay. Any other matters to be heard before council this evening? Ms. Sharpshire.
Just a PSA. Well, first of all, I will welcome, and it's been a pleasure having Troop 803, my son's troop. My son's an Eagle Scout, Thomas, and it's nice seeing so many familiar faces in the crowd. I do have a PSA. As we know, Princeton City Schools has a tax levy coming up this spring. They are having a community listening session going to be held at the Sharonville Recreation Center for all residents wanting to hear more about it or to discuss about the levy. And that is from 6 to 7 on February 27th. So I'll probably mention it again at the next meeting, but they already had one at Sharonville Elementary School last week. Anywho, so February 27th, 6 to 7 at Sharonville Recreation Center for residents wanting to talk about the school levy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other matters? Ms. Knight?
Yes, for everybody. The root beer stand is opening March 8th. So get ready for some footlongs and root beer.
Other matters?
Apparently, Mr. Downton knew that this great group of hungry young men were going to be here, so they brought you dessert. So make sure you guys grab some before you leave tonight. And all of you, too, because it's usually really good.
All right, thank you. Any other matters? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion for adjournment? Mr. Tankersley, thank you for the first. Ms. Sharpshire, thank you for the second. All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Thank you. We are adjourned.